If you've taken a long break from any creative pursuit, or you're trying to get back into doing something that lit you up, that sparked you up when you were a child, and you've let that creativity lapse over a period of years, and you're trying to get back into it because you feel like there's something in you that's missing, there's a part of you that you lost along the way. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the things that I've learned that has helped me stay creative despite circumstances, despite a career, despite being married with two very young kids, so that you can also be encouraged that it is possible, that you can continue. It's never too late to start. You have what it takes. Let's go for it. The best way to uncover that initial artistic spark that you might have lost as you progressed into adulthood is to go back and try and remember, what was the thing that you found yourself really attracted to? What was the play instinct or the art form or the little thing that you used to do as a child that you could totally get lost in for hours and hours? For me, I used to love illustrating. At that time, it was just drawing my favorite comic book or cartoon characters, or playing around outside with my toys, coming up with these fictional fantasy worlds, these stories that I completely got lost in, absorbed in what would later become storytelling through different mediums and different forms that were less childish but more adult. So in a song, you can tell a full 3-arc story within 3 or 4 minutes. Particularly hip-hop, this whole idea that you could compress all of these lyrics and cram them into just a few minutes and tell this amazing story was something that really drew me to music. And I feel like that's also what drew me into the broadcasting medium. My brother showed me how to record myself on cassette tape when I was a child, pretending that I'm a radio presenter. Me and my friends used to get around this little wireless radio that had this cassette tape function where you could record into it with an onboard microphone, and I loved it. And we just used the same tape over and over. We would just record ourselves coming up with just these crazy stories. Later on, when I went to university, the first thing I did was apply for a job at our local campus radio station, and that is where I actually learned what they call radio theater of the mind. You're telling a story with sounds. I actually followed that creative narrative of wanting to be a storyteller without knowing that what I'm doing is storytelling. So even though I put my action figures away, I found my way into a creative medium that still allowed me the freedom of play to create these worlds, world building with words. Try to think of that one thing that really sparked you, that really lit you up and made you go like, oh yes, this brings me joy. I can pass all the hours with this thing that pulls me in. Because if you follow that instinct, if you follow that creative impulse, it's the fastest way to unlock what you might have lost as you became a professional or as you chose non-artistic career paths. The thing that you actually need to do is just find ways to reignite that practically. If your thing was drawing and you've let go of that, just get a little notepad out. It doesn't have to be this massive art book, or it doesn't have to be on canvas or anything like that. It can be maybe just on the back of a matchbox, and then start to reignite that passion that you had for drawing as a child and start drawing little scribbles on it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just find a small way that you can re-engage that impulse, because if it's small, it's going to create the momentum for you to keep going without being too self-critical or self-judgmental, without it needing to be perfect, without it needing to blow anybody's mind. It's just for you to slowly begin building that creative muscle again. Because what's happened is our society has told you that it has to be this amazing work of art, which actually just creates more discouragement, because now you're comparing yourself against those professionals or people who have been in it for 20 years or 30 years. And that is just a massive point of discouragement. So I would say start small and then see if you can just keep doing more and more and more as you gain more confidence to unlock your creative potential. Then decide, okay, I want to make a bigger piece now. I want to record a longer bit of audio, or I want to write my second song. If you've just gotten back into songwriting, for instance, find ways to expose yourself to creative play again. We often are so hyper-judging toward ourselves all the time that we're not giving ourselves the permission to fail. We don't feel like we're permitted to make any mistakes. But notice what happens when you, as a piano player, for instance, jump onto the drum kit and start jamming. There's complete freedom because you know there's no ego attached to it. You don't know what you're doing. And when you don't know what you're doing, that's when you really start having fun. You're actually being like a beginner. So owning the title amateur is actually the secret ingredient. This book, Show Your Work, 10 Ways to Share Your Creativity and Get Discovered. Amateurs are not afraid to make mistakes or look ridiculous in public. They are in love, so they don't hesitate to do work that others think of as silly or just plain stupid. I have been an amateur for so long that at some point I became a professional. Because if you're honest with yourself that you are a beginner and you don't know anything, then that gives you the freedom to make as many mistakes as you want. What I found has worked with me is that I'd throw myself in situations where I'm not accepted because I'm an outlier, or I'm not as trained or as professional as anyone else. I haven't been doing it for as long as everyone else. It always helped to go into situations where I have nothing to lose. If they tell me that I suck, if they tell me that I'm not good enough, I knew that to begin with. I knew that going in. One of my friends was playing in the jazz big band at our university. He was a guitar player, and he invited me along to one of their rehearsals one night. And I went just out of interest because I'm interested in the genre, and I was playing bass guitar kind of on the side. I noticed that they didn't have a bass player in the big band. They were looking for one. And then the conductor turned to me. She saw me sitting in the sort of audience area and asked me, "Hey, kid, what do you play?" I was like, bass? She said, "Okay, great. Next rehearsal, bring your bass guitar. You're in." Without auditioning for this thing, I was in at the deep end. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. First few months of playing in that band, I was terrified because suddenly I had to close a 10, 15-year gap where a lot of my peers had been taking weekly lessons for just as long, and that had qualified them to play in this big band. I was completely unqualified. I was a rock musician. And so it forced me to really learn how to sight read very fast. The only thing I could do was absorb whatever I can about the genre as well as what I was learning from my teachers. Suddenly, I was no longer a beginner. So I encourage you to find ways to expose yourself to creativity again in this way, because you never know where it's going to lead. That's the most exciting part about it, is that I'm always asking this question, what if? I don't know where this YouTube channel is going to lead. I just decided that, hey, I want to make some videos sharing what I've learned about creativity. It might go nowhere, but it might also go somewhere. You need to find other people to walk alongside you on this path. It has to be people who are like-minded and who share the same passion and drive that you have for the thing that you're trying to do. Because there are so many who might not understand what you're trying to do and who will try to discourage you because you don't fit the norm, or they think it's stupid, they think it's a waste of time. But if you find those other misfits, those other mavericks, those other outliers, then you all can encourage each other. We are taught by our culture that geniuses just emerge out of nowhere, but a scenius is a group of enthusiasts who align themselves around a common artistic goal and then expose themselves to it together. The art that they create starts to become this little cultural, subcultural think tank where they're all learning from each other, they're all growing together, and through that process the whole community thrives. But certain individuals in the community then begin to open doors for others as they start to expose themselves to more and more collaborative work. And we can see that through the punk subculture, hip-hop subcultures. When I started out as a songwriter going from gig to gig, I found myself at a local scenius called Expression Session where I was given a platform to debut new songs. Doors opened for me because of the early support. We can see that the internet itself is starting to sprout all of these different kinds of sceniuses in all of these different niche websites. You can log in on Twitch and find people who are interested in what you dig. Discord, Reddit, Substack. And so there's never been a better time to find your tribe, so to speak. There's no reason for you not to do this, and everybody gets to benefit from it. There's no point in shying away anymore. There's almost no excuse because everybody has a cell phone. Everybody can log in to a forum online and introduce themselves to people who are interested in the same things that they're interested in. Hopefully, I've given you the tools that will make you express yourself more fully and hopefully come back to a part of you that might have gotten lost along the way. I'm really curious to hear what your art is and how you are sharing it. Please leave a comment below. I'll read everyone and comment on everyone. I'd love to know how you are expressing yourself and finding more ways to be creative. Always remember that your art is your fruit. Share it. Fruit vendor, out.